Sophie Thomas. I'm an expert and speaker for energy efficiency and climate protection at the Chamber of Industry and Commerce at Darmstadt, and I'm also responsible for the two climate protection networks, ETA Plus and ETA Metropolis Rhein-Main-Neckar. But before I talk about our own energy efficiency networks, I would like to start from scratch. First, I would like to explain what is an energy efficiency network, what's its definition. For the networks we are operating, there is a definition because we are running under a federal initiative. And I will also explain this federal initiative and who's behind this initiative. Then I will present our own ETA networks. And then later I will also present the advantages of being a member of such a network and how you can also participate in such a network. So let's get started with the first item on the agenda. What are we talking about today? What is an energy efficiency and climate protection network? An energy efficiency and climate protection network is a systematic, targeted, and unbureaucratic exchange of experience and ideas among companies. And it usually consists of 8 to 15, but at least 5 companies or company locations. So a network can consist of different companies, but it also can be founded from one company if you have at least 5 different locations in your company. There also needs to be a specific duration of a network, and this duration of a network is usually 2 to 3 years. And what are you doing in such a network? You are cooperating in order to increase energy efficiency in companies. You implement climate protection, resource efficiency, and sustainability measures. Why do you do that? You do that in order to increase energy efficiency in your companies and to significantly reduce the energy costs for your own company, and in order to reduce greenhouse gases, and in order to have a positive impact on the environment and the climate. And thus you also make a contribution to our climate objectives. I've already touched upon this. An energy efficiency and climate protection network is not something that we came up with. It wasn't our idea. There is actually a federal initiative which is called Energy Efficiency and Climate Protection Networks. And there's also a long history of this initiative. I don't want to bore you with all the details, but I just want to touch upon that. Many companies came together and worked together in order to contribute to the energy efficiency goals and in order to increase their energy efficiency. And those companies also realized that they are faced with the same challenges and that it makes sense to have an exchange and to think outside the box. And actually, this idea popped up in Switzerland. They had this idea earlier than in Germany. So the idea was developed in Switzerland in 1987. And at the beginning of 2000, 2001, and 2002, the first energy efficiency and climate protection networks were developed in Germany. And then in 2008, there was the first federally funded project in Germany, and numerous projects followed. And then in 2015, the Energy Efficiency Networks for Companies initiative was founded. And since then, this initiative has been supporting companies in finding and founding networks, to having an exchange, and to working on the goals of energy efficiency. The first round of this initiative went from 2015 to 2020, and after that the federal government decided to continue that project, and now this is called Energy Efficiency and Climate Protection Networks Initiative. So there is a new name, and you can already hear it. It's not just about increasing energy efficiency, but there was an expansion of the content spectrum to include the topics of climate protection, energy transition, and sustainability. Because if you're dealing with energy efficiency, you will also be confronted with these topics, and that is why these topics also have to be integrated in the new network strategy. And from a political perspective, the starting point of the initiative, well, I have to look it up, I'm sorry, because I don't remember it correctly. It was the National Plan of Energy Efficiency. This was the starting point, and this strategy stipulated that the federal government wants to achieve the energy efficiency objectives in the industry with this initiative. And now I have to take a look at my notes again. There's also the Energy Efficiency Strategy 2045. And these two papers actually stipulate that the founding of energy efficiency networks is supposed to contribute to the achievement of the energy goals. Now, I would like to take a brief look at who is behind the initiative. I already mentioned that this is a federal initiative, and the BMWK and the BMUV are the major two sponsors, but there are also 21 associations from the economy and the industry. So you also have the German Chamber of Industry and Commerce. They are also a sponsor, and there are also many different cooperation partners. Oftentimes, we have the state energy agencies, and DENA, the German Energy Agency, is the office, the headquarters of this initiative. So now you have an idea of who is behind this initiative. Now let's take a look at the network in more detail. Since the beginning of the initiative, 391 networks have been founded. So this is since the beginning, since 2015. So this is not the last term. So during the first term, about 300 networks were founded from 15 to 2020, and since 2021, 100 networks were added to that. And then there are two networks that we support from the Chamber of Industry and Commerce Darmstadt, which is ETA plus South Hesse. This is focused mainly on small and medium-sized companies, and there is a special focus on best practice examples. And then we have ETA Metropol, or the ETA Metropolis, Rhein, Main, Neckar, which focuses more on energy-intensive companies. And now I would also like to take a look at the networks in more detail. First, we have the ETA plus South Hesse, where we have 16 member companies, and 11 out of these 16 member companies also committed to implementing energy efficiency measures during the term of this initiative. And what's special about this network is that we have cooperation partners. On the one hand, all the districts also joined the network, so they are multipliers. They are also partners in the network, and thus they are supporting the network, and they also carry the idea of the network into the districts and municipalities, and they also raise awareness about the work. And in addition to that, we have 5 additional partners. For instance, ETA Solutions. Daniel also mentioned them before. They are co-initiators of the networks, not just of this network, but also of previous networks. And then we also have PTW, which is also represented here in this area. They are also a partner here. And our partners make sure that we have the specialist knowledge, the specialist expertise in the network. So they have different fields of expertise. We have a high level of knowledge in the network, and we always have the right cooperation partners in order to focus on our path towards climate neutrality. And the objective of this network is, during its term, from the end 2021 to the end 2023, to save 1,000 tons of CO2. And I already mentioned that there was a predecessor, which was called ETA Plus, and it was able to save 15,000 tons of CO2. So you might wonder and ask, well, this is a lot already. Why is the objective to save 1,000 tons of CO2? The reason is that we founded a second network. In the previous network, we didn't have this distinction between SMEs and energy-intensive companies. The previous network included all the companies, and now we also have the ETA metropolis Rhein-Main-Neckar, which focuses on energy-intensive companies. And this network has the objective to save 25,000 megawatt hours of final energy. We have several companies which are members here, and what's very special is that it goes across federal states. So we don't only work with companies from Hesse, but we go beyond our state borders, and we also cooperate with 3 chambers of industry and commerce. And this is also very special about this network. And for this network, I can already tell you that ETA Metropol or ETA Metropolis also decided to continue beyond this current term because they see a great benefit in this network. How are we working in these networks? Well, in both networks, the work was quite similar. We have 3 network meetings per year, and they always take place at member companies. And then the companies focus on one specific overall topic. For instance, on Thursday, I have a network meeting from ETA Plus, and we will be meeting at a circular economy company, and this will also be the overall topic of this network meeting. So the CEO will also show the production side. They will show us their climate protection measures so that all the other members can learn from that. And this is also what ETA Metropol does. However, we were able to see that it also makes sense not to just meet in person, but to also have online meetings in addition to these face-to-face meetings, so that other employees from companies can join. Maybe there is a topic which is very interesting for a specialist department in a company, and then more employees want to join during an online meeting, for instance. And we also want to do one thing differently in the next round. We want to have more specialists and expert speakers during the meetings. So all those presentations and contributions have come from the networks. They came from the companies from the network, and now we want to get more external support in order to get other perspectives into the network. Probably you get the impression that this is a lot of work. So maybe you ask yourself whether it's worth to join as a member. However, I can tell you that it's not too much work, and you can really benefit from that. Because through the exchange, you can get inspired, you can get new ideas and learn from other member companies, and you can implement your own energy efficiency measures, and thus you will also increase energy efficiency and reduce energy costs. In addition, it will be much more easier through the exchange to meet legal obligations. If you just consider all the activities from the federal government this year, you also get the impression that there are more and more legal obligations for the companies. So it really makes sense to get into an exchange with other companies that also need to fulfill these legal requirements. In addition, there are also funding and grant programs. Sometimes you don't even know about these programs. And of course, we as the network sponsor will inform the companies if there is a new funding program. And through the exchange, you also get to know whether there is a new project, a new program, and then what others did in order to get the funding. And of course, it shows that you have the corporate commitment to energy efficiency and climate protection. It makes it very visible. Then one more topic, our energy management system. If you don't have an energy management system yet, it might be easier for you to implement such a system or to introduce such a system. And of course, you can also improve an existing system because you will get new ideas from the other network partners. Now, after the first 10 minutes of my presentation, you maybe are already interested in joining a network. So let me tell you how to do that. You can become active yourself. You can join a network. So the Energy Efficiency and Climate Protection Initiative has an interactive map on its homepage. You can take a look at all the networks that exist in Germany, and you can also filter for networks. So maybe there are networks which are looking for new members, and you can just click on the map, and maybe there is a network which is close to your region, and maybe this network is not actively looking for new members, but you can just get in touch and ask them whether they would accept new members. If there isn't a network you want to join, you can also found your network yourself. You need 4 different actors for that. You need network sponsors, a network moderator, an energy consulting agency, and participants. The network sponsor could come from different institutions. In our case, we, the Chamber of Industry and Commerce Darmstadt, is the network sponsor, and we, of course, also attract new members and convince others to join the network. And we also deal with all the bureaucratic tasks, and we deal with the exchange in the initiative. So the companies don't have to deal with that at all. The network moderator can also be done by the network sponsor, but it also can be done by the energy consultant. In our case, it's Martin Beck from ITA Solutions. He is supporting us with the network moderation. He is a registered energy consultant, and you also need an energy consultant for your network in order to become a network. And of course, you need participants or members. So those can be different companies. Maybe you want to have an industry-specific network, or maybe you want to have a network which goes across different industries. Maybe you want to focus on a specific region, or maybe you want to have an exchange across Germany. It always depends on the target of your network. And of course, these participants, these members, then enter into an exchange in the network. After having identified all the participants, there are 3 phases of the establishment of a network. First, you need to found the network. So you need to have an agreement on the exchange of experience in the network. So you need a cooperation agreement. And the cooperation agreement stipulates who has which task to fulfill, what are the objectives to fulfill, and what is the term of the network. So this actually gives the network some kind of legal framework, commitment. So this is the basis. Then there is the second phase of the network, which is the activity as such, the networking. You enter into an exchange, you consult each other, and then at the end of the network there is a monitoring, which is mandatory. So in the energy efficiency and climate protection networks, you have to define your objectives, and at the end of your term, these objectives will be monitored. So you have to stipulate which measures have been taken and what the reduction results were resulting from these measures. Now, if I wasn't able to convince you to join an energy efficiency network, I would like to try again with this last slide. So why should you join such an energy efficiency and climate protection network? First reason, it's worth it. All the companies who have joined our networks tell me that they benefited so much from the network, that they enjoyed the exchange, and that it was a big added value for them. Not because you can implement energy efficiency measures yourselves, but because you are actually motivating each other. You meet 3 or 4 times a year, and you always remind one another that you should focus on energy efficiency and that you should be active. You should become active yourself. You should join a network if it's possible, or you should found your own network. And I can only give you a little piece of advice. Approach the different partners. So the partners are chambers of industry and commerce and energy agencies. You might be worried that you have to register a network and that this is a lot of bureaucratic work, but you just can give all this red tape to the chambers of industry and commerce, and you can really focus on the network activities. And it's not just the chambers of industry and commerce, but also the state energy agencies. We all support you in the founding of your own network. Well, and if you have any further questions, please approach me directly, or you can also get information on the website of the initiative, or you can also get information on the website of the Chamber of Industry and Commerce of Darmstadt. And if you have any questions, please feel free to ask them now, or you can also approach me later. Thank you very much for your attention.